Today I want to talk about a very controversial question, which is, does Square Enix hate Xbox? Because it's kind of starting to seem like it. They just revealed another major awesome game is only coming to the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation. Live Alive, the remake, they just said, hey, surprise, it's coming to PlayStation, and once again, it's totally skipping Xbox, which is seriously like the 10th game in a row that didn't even get minor Xbox support, and people are asking, what the heck is up? So let's try and dig into that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Hey, I'll make you guys a deal. April Fool's Day is coming up here on April 1st. If this video hits 3,000 likes, I'll film a video without my hat on and you can see how bald I am. Okay, good deal? Okay, so here we go. So what sort of inspired this video is this very clickbaity title of an article. Xbox has an embarrassing Square Enix problem. Now, this is obviously a very aggressive title for an article that's pretty reasonable and it's very well founded. So recently, during the Activision Blizzard court case, Xbox, it's very strange, but Microsoft says, hey, we're losing. The Xbox isn't selling. Xbox games are not particularly popular. Software sales are very, very low. Everybody buys an Xbox for Game Pass and pretty much nothing else. Now, in my opinion, this was a strange tactic, but it definitely seems to have worked. It seems like they're going to be able to buy this, and now Microsoft is going to own World of Warcraft and Diablo and Call of Duty for the rest of time. I mean, they straight up said in court, we're just these tiny little guys. We're so far behind. Sony is kicking our butt. What I found interesting is the fact that, honestly, well, Microsoft isn't doing that bad. Microsoft still has trillions of dollars, even if the Xbox brand isn't big. But if a game isn't coming to Game Pass, it feels like it's oftentimes sort of disregarded. In recent years, Xbox got late ports of games like Nier Automata, Dragon Quest Builders 2, and Octopath, all of which specifically released on Game Pass. If Game Pass isn't in the equation, they simply don't get the games. It doesn't matter how small the game is. This is one of the interesting things that I feel like makes Xbox feel different to me, especially over the course of these last couple of years, is that Microsoft really puts their money where their mouth is. I think that a lot of times they're straight up approaching these developers. There's been some leaked talks about the fact that it sounds like when we got all the Persona games on Game Pass, they actually approached Atlas and said, hey, how much would it cost to put classic games like Persona 3 and Persona 4 on modern consoles? And they paid that development cost to get it on Xbox. But that brings me back to this article because that's so far what Sony has been doing as well. Forspoken and Final Fantasy XVI are both actually co-developed by Sony. Sony is not just, making sure they're console exclusives. It sounds like they're actually paying money and sending over developers to make sure these games are best on PlayStation. So in that case, it totally makes sense why those games are not coming to Xbox. But this article really highlights some games that, in my opinion, should not be exclusive. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is an incredibly addictive Final Fantasy music game. I love it. It has 500 songs in it, incredibly good. It only came to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. It didn't come to PC. It didn't come to Xbox, and that seems bizarre. But this is the strangest one of all. Octopath Traveler 2 is a freaking masterpiece. It's got to be one of the best turn-based RPGs I've played in a long time. I'm still sitting here completely blown away about how good it is. And it didn't come to Xbox. It came to PC, it came to Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PS5, but they didn't even bother throwing it on Xbox for some additional sales. Now, the weirdest part of that is that Octopath Traveler 1 was on Xbox and Nintendo Switch, but Octopath Traveler 1 is not on PlayStation. We keep having this weird hit and miss. Games like Stranger of Paradise and Chrono Cross and Crisis Core all came to Xbox, but then Romancing Saga, Tactics Ogre, and Valkyrie Elysium are all PlayStation 5 exclusives. Now, a lot of people are kind of asking, Why? Like, why this weird hit and miss? Some games are, some games aren't. In my opinion, this does make it seem like it's not contractual exclusivity. It does seem like there is some sort of weird background math that Square Enix is doing to try and figure out which games are actually worth developing for the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series S. But I think part of this also comes down to very much the absolutely explosive sales of the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. In fact, just here in February, the PlayStation 5 actually broke its own Sony sales records. The PlayStation 5 has now sold faster than any other PlayStation console ever. Anytime in history, that means that officially it sold more in a single month than even the PlayStation 2, which, keep in mind, is still one of the highest selling consoles ever. So it's insane that right now the PlayStation 5 is just so explosively big and mainstream, and so is the Nintendo Switch. Games that can run on Switch, like Theatrhythm and Octopath Traveler 2, seem to have a huge, very accessible, and very activated audience on the Nintendo Switch. I think, from my point of view, that right now the problem with the Xbox is hype. It's activation. It's interest. It does feel like a lot of times the Xbox Series X kind of gets the most basic marketing possible. Like right now, they just an hour ago, they announced a Diablo 4 bundle. It's coming out June 6th for $559. This console is so boring. It's straight black. Now, of course, all the comments are being like, why couldn't they put a freaking Xbox skeleton sticker on it? This is so low effort. Even freaking Nintendo at least put some red Joy-Cons on the Mario freaking Nintendo Switch. I think right now, the biggest thing is, from a marketing perspective, is that it does feel like Xbox does not try to get people excited. They just expect you to show up and buy it. And I wonder if Square Enix is just not thrilled about that. It's interesting to me that so many games are only coming to PlayStation. And I'm also wondering, I still think this is probably at least partially contractually related. I do think that some of these games are definitely times where Sony is probably coming in bit by bit and picking and choosing which games they want to only exist on the PlayStation and the PC, and specifically the ones they're blocking out Xbox. Xbox definitely is kind of dead in Japan. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think the latest numbers for console sales in Japan are something insane, like Xbox is 2% of the entire market. So I kind of understand why they wouldn't exactly start funding big, expensive development. But beyond that, some games I definitely believe are being partially funded by PlayStation, like the freaking trilogy of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those games are definitely being paid for by Sony to only come to Sony platforms, and that's probably a huge console seller. I'm just confused about stuff like this. Live Alive came out last year on the Nintendo Switch. I got completely obsessed with it, and now I'm going to double dip. I'm coming back to actually buy it on the PlayStation 5. They shadow dropped the demo today, which is fantastic. But this is the kind of stuff I am wondering what background math, what sort of negotiations are going on in the Square Enix boardrooms. Why aren't these games coming to Xbox? I mean, how is it that this is not going to make its money back? In my opinion, Live Alive is not only a very basic game visually, it's got just like little tiny pixel art. This would probably only cost maybe a couple $100,000 to port it to the Xbox, maybe, like complete actual napkin math there. But I mean, how expensive can it be? Do they really not expect to make even that money back? A lot of people seem to be genuinely disappointed by the lack of actual RPGs coming to Xbox. Even with this deal going through, so now we're going to have stuff like probably World of Warcraft and Call of Duty and Diablo coming to Game Pass at some point. That's a huge, huge financial win for Xbox, but it does sort of feel like it still lacks that excitement. That, in my opinion, is the real Square Enix problem. It's not that Xbox is failing. I think that Xbox needs to find a way to pump up their marketing, get people excited, get people talking. I'm excited for the next game like Redfall and stuff and Forza Motorsport, but I mean, when it comes to third-party stuff, I'm going to be unlocking trophies or playing it handheld, unless it comes to Game Pass. That seems to be a big conundrum I keep seeing going around. There is the double-edged sword of Game Pass. When something's good, we're glad. It's like, great, I'm glad that it's coming to Xbox. But even more so, I'm extra glad when something is coming to Game Pass. I constantly see people just tweet me, as good as this game looks, I own an Xbox, I'm going to play it on Xbox. Like literally, I can show you that right now. A tweet I just got of someone saying, I'm excited. I'm going to wait for Game Pass. Look at this. I'll wait for Game Pass. This is constant. Man. Anyways, these are just some off-the-cuff thoughts. I love you guys very much. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me the goods, the bads, and the uglies. Do we need to see more of Square Enix actually showing up for Xbox? Or can they succeed with their own Game Pass ecosystem? Tell me your thoughts. You guys rock. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.